you know, this thing was gonna go to scrap, and it actually fell in our lap to a friend locally.
They are OEM cam gears that have been cut.
Sounds like it's making no compression.
Yeah. Crank it again?
Yeah.
All right, Honda heads, this one is for you guys. We are about to save this DB8 Integra sedan, GS-R model no less, a super rare car, from what was its fate. And that was likely the wrecking yard, the crusher, the part out. You know, this thing was gonna go to scrap, and it actually fell in our lap through a friend locally who knew we were looking for a powertrain to swap into our EG sedan over there. So we went and looked at this and we're like, yeah, this is perfect for that. Let's buy it for the powertrain. And then when we started to look at it a little more closely, beyond the cosmetic problems that it has, we thought this thing is actually really cool. The rat rod aesthetic that it has is just really appealing to us. So the question is, what do we do with a car in this condition? As you can see, the paint is completely faded and the clear coat is failing. It's got your typical, you know, rear quarter rot covered up by duct tape. But it's so cool, we thought we need to save this thing. So step one in this process is going to be giving it a mechanical, thorough going through. We're gonna fix all the problems that it has, and as you'll see later in this episode, it has lots of problems, not just cosmetic. So we're gonna fix it underneath and make it mechanically sound, make it a good runner and driver. It's not all bad with this car though. It does have a 5-lug conversion on it, which is quite valuable, and it does make, you know, your wheel choices, I guess, a little different than they would be with a 4-lug, but check out the patina on these stamped steel wheels. That's like stuff that hot rod guys pay big bucks for. Inside, the interior is all original and is actually in very good shape. It is the highlight of this car cosmetically, and I like this sort of beigey brown interior. I don't know that I've ever seen a DB8 in this color interior before. Under the hood, you see that glorious B18C1 GS-R powertrain, and you can also see that the shock towers are a different color than the rest of the car, and that's because this car was resprayed. It was originally this nice, like, dark green. It was almost like a turquoisey green. I don't know the paint coat offhand. The purple is also an OEM color, and I do like the purple. It looks good on this car, but it wasn't the original color, and that explains why the paint's falling off in places, because it just wasn't painted very well. It wasn't prepped very well, but there's lots of issues under the hood that you can't see right now. There's a huge leak on the cam seals that we'll have to fix. It's got a random, like, regrind camshaft set in there that makes it run quite poorly. And this distributor is an aftermarket one, which doesn't seem to work very well either. So we're gonna do exactly that. We're gonna make it a good runner and driver, but we do have other plans for this car. We like this sort of rat rod beat up look so much that we thought, how much fun would it be to make a bunch more power with it and really turn it into a sleeper? Catch people off guard on the street with this thing. Do we turbocharge the GS-R? Do we put a K in there and turbo it? Do we J swap it? Do we put that F20C we've got over there, PT, and make this a rear-wheel drive drift car? Let us know in the comments what you guys would do to have some fun with this rusty old four-door. I'm sure some of you are wondering what we paid for this beauty, and you'll be surprised by the price, I think. We paid 3,500 Canadian, or about 2,500 US dollars, and if you know how expensive B-Series swaps have become, you'll know that's basically what the powertrain is worth. So the rest of the car we got for free, and yes, there isn't a lot of value in a rusty four-door Integra chassis, but dollars and cents aside, why don't we take it for a drive so you guys can see what issues we're dealing with.
What it does have that is a positive DP is this is a Type R gauge cluster. So our TAC revs or goes to 10,000 RPM.
As it should.
Which is the right one.
It is. So what are the problems then, PT? Because you're the one who drove this home when we bought it.
Yes.
And I recall we had to pull over once or twice.
The biggest issue that we have in this car is the misfire. I don't know if I can reproduce it.
Okay.
But it did have a misfire when you were driving like this, just putting along.
It would sort of do a like, hesitation type thing?
Yeah, and you would just go and it would misfire. So we'll see, maybe we can get that to reproduce here, but if not, let's see over the railroad bumps. Yeah, the suspension's tired.
Yeah, it certainly is.
It's certainly tired.
Yeah,
let's see. Oh, it goes into first gear while you're moving, so let's see if I can crack some VTEC here.
A little tire jerk.
You can feel it. See, it's like...
It doesn't feel like it's making enough power.
No, it feels like it's flat when it hits the crossover.
The crossover is very soft.
It's like it's super flat, and then it starts picking up, which is likely those cams.
Yeah, I think so.
But the cams are bad.
Yeah.
So like,
and if it's getting a bad spark,
there's the crossover there, flat. Oh no, there goes our camera. I should have taken it off, DP. I should have taken it off. Note to self, the way this mounts is not great
flat
on the
surface for the suction cups, I guess.
Yes, on the, well.
Doesn't love it on the glass, maybe?
I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah.
Getting back to this thing, you can smell the oil now. There's a massive leak somewhere.
It pours out of the cam seals, we think?
Yeah. It is literally pouring out of there.
Yeah, you can smell it.
But otherwise, man, this thing just a stock little beast.
Yeah, it's
see it dead there. And then, so it's like after 55, 6,000 RPM,
starts to hit a bit harder,
starts to come alive.
But the GS-R is normally sort of the torquey version of this engine with that intake manifold design and everything. So for this to have so poor a mid-range, I think you're right that it's the cams.
It's got to be cams. I think we got to go back to stock
stock
cams and really just, dial this thing back in.
Yeah.
But yeah, like dead. There now it picks up.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. Dead, and then it starts picking up. So,
it needs a little help for sure.
Yeah. The engine doesn't feel like it's, bad per se. Like it's got good top end. It feels like a GS-R. So I think it's good. But other than that, there's really not anything else that, really it's kind of a stockish GS-R.
Run and drive pretty good, yeah. Underneath here, you can see it is really wet and oily in this area, like along these control arms. It's just coated in oil. We did have a good look, and we're pretty sure it's the cam seals that are causing most of this, but we're not sure about the oil pan seal itself. Obviously, you guys know that's a very common problem on these B-Series motors. As you can see, things are pretty rusty over here, although we didn't mention that this is a US car because the four-door GS-R sedans, I think, were never sold in Canada.
They weren't.
Pete has confirmed they weren't. So this is definitely a US car originally, and it's clearly lived some of its life in Canada because it's pretty rusty under here. To prep these bolts for removal, we're actually going to use FluidFilm Black, which you've seen us use as an undercoating to protect against rust, but it's actually also an excellent penetrant. So it will seep into these kinds of bolts and threads and make it easier for us to loosen these. And with a car in this condition, it's also a prime candidate for actually fully undercoating it with FluidFilm. So yes, once we get this car all cleaned up and mechanically sound and to our spec, we are going to come in and fully undercoat it with FluidFilm, which will give you long-lasting protection. We've done this on multiple vehicles before, and we find it lasts at least a year before you need to touch it up again. So it's a really great solution for do-it-yourselfers who want to be able to undercoat their cars. Also worth mentioning that it's lanolin-based, so it's wool wax-based, which means it's a totally safe product for the environment. So we're not going to have to mask up and treat this like a hazmat scenario. This is actually very safe to use, safe to get on your skin.
Now, before we go coating this entire car with FluidFilm, we want to get all of the work done. So we are going to start with the exhaust system, which is in shambles. It is rusty. The bolts here to remove the flange from the header are so rotted. Let's see if I can either snap them or I'm gonna have to go to the Sawzall here, so.
Whoa.
See, that's pretty easy, DP. I don't have to get it out. It's just, it's so rotted. It just snaps right away. There it is. This is just Canada's best right here. Next hurdle here is separating the header, basically the top portion from the lower collector here. And I did spray these with FluidFilm, so I'm hoping that it's just enough lubricant that none of these are gonna snap, and having the impact is gonna help. So let's see what happens here. Oh, wow. That's, oof, yes. One down, two more to go, let's see. Oh, that one like butter, DP.
Yeah.
That's what I want the rest of this build to look like.
I think that's optimistic, but let's find out.
Yeah. Well, let's see here. I can separate this. Okay. Oh, look at that donut, man. It has seen better days. Wow. Some of you may have seen us use this tool before, and it is a savior when it comes to taking exhaust hangers off of the exhaust. You can see it basically goes on like that and just slides this thing out and pushes it through. This, my good friends, is the definition of muffler shop special. You can see some of the piping here is just, it's all press bent. It's been welded up 4 or 5 different times. The metal used is not stainless steel and certainly not of good quality. It was just like rotting up top here like crazy. Check this setup out here, man. Oh. First of all, the old fart cannon here was burning our bumper. Our precious bumper is ruined, everybody, which is not great. You know, we had high hopes of reusing this and making it mint. Not really. But wow, more professional work here. Good old U-bolt or U-joint on here. So this is the original section. I think this is all that's left from the original exhaust setup. And then this goodness right there, ready to go, make a ton of power on this car. Before we can pull the header, we have to remove the heat shield and place your bets. How many of these bolts are gonna snap? I see 4 that we have to remove, and they look like they've been there a very long time. However, sometimes luck is on your side. Luck is on your side. 1, 2, 3. That one's a little more crunchy. Still went though. And last one. Oh, wow. That means all of them are loose, so they are gonna come out. So it's just gonna look like underneath your DP. Are we gonna have rusted nuts on the header or what?
They're always rotten.
Let's see. Let's see. Oh man, this AC is in the way.
Been replaced.
Oh, I just scratched our Type R valve cover here too. Oh.
It's a cut valve cover. Right
now. Yes, there we are. And well, I got good news and bad news. These look like they're gonna come off. There's a stud missing here. Hopefully it's not snap DP, and there's no nut down here. So yeah. And that came off super easy, which leads me to believe, I think this head has either been serviced or has been off, because usually the studs are super rusty and these nuts. So, okay, now let's have a look here. Do we have a broken stud? Oof. I am going to say yes, given the fact that it is very dirty in there, and yeah, it is broken. Dang it! Dang it, dang it. here are the cams that came out of that engine, and interestingly enough, they are stamped. I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see this, but that says Colt Cams. And for those of you that are OG, you will know Colt Cams from way back in the day. They're actually a Canadian company, and they reground cams. So these are likely, I don't know, let's just say Type R cams that were reground to a specific spec that we will not know what it was, because given the lack of information on the internet and the fact that this just basically says C513.S, I don't know what that means, but I guess we could call him DP. We could call him, but no need. Interestingly enough, so these are the adjustable cam gears that were on those cams, and they are aftermarket, or they are OEM cam gears that have been cut and have had this sleeve put in them to make them adjustable. And you can see there is cracking in certain areas of the bolts, which is not great, but
Colt Cams too, maybe?
Maybe, man, but it's pretty cool. It's cool stuff to see. Needless to say, we will be replacing them because we just don't know the profile. It wasn't running great, as you guys saw driving, and there was a massive leak at the cam seals, and there is a rip in one right there. So that likely was causing the leak. Otherwise, they're soft, but they don't have any stampings on them that make them identifiable that they are not aftermarket. And what came with this car were the OE GS-R cams. So those are these here. We are going to replace the cam seal on it. So we are basically going to redo that entire job with a fresh timing belt, fresh seals, and we're gonna put it all back together. As you just saw, timing belt is back together. We used a fresh belt, not the water pump, not the pulley, because everything else looked really good. We're trying to like minimize what we're doing and replacing on this car. And for Rat Rod's sake, we are getting rid of the red Type R valve cover and going back to the OE GS-R black one. And this one, it's got the old patina on it, just like this car, which I think is gonna look pretty good here. So these front mounts on any EGE, K, DC2, all of these do fail, as you saw with this one. And the right thing to do is make an upgrade to the hard race unit, which is also rubber, as you can see, but hardened just a little bit. So we love these. We find that they provide like the perfect amount of NVH and without having to use polyurethane. So they're kind of like the perfect in between. And before I put this on here, we're gonna give the old FluidFilm a blast into all of the orifices where the rusty bolts are going back in. You know, we wanna make sure that these ones come out because we will be pulling this engine in the future. It is surprising that these cars do have 5 mounts. So we still have to go and do both the transmission side and then one in the back. So it's gonna be a bit of a job, but we're gonna skip showing you all that because we've got some real exciting stuff. Oh, Dave. What I'm not excited about is this bolt is gonna snap. I can tell you right away.
Yeah,
I feel it.
They do it.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, that's very common on these cars.
Why? Why is it gotta...
Just sits down there on a flat plane and rots away, right?
Oh boy. Yeah, fair enough. Well, that means this one hasn't had an intake on here in a while. It does have this little duct set up here that I'll show you in a bit. That's pretty interesting, that I think runs from the lower fender liner. And let's see if this one's gonna snap too. Ooh, this one feels a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No.
It means it's not spinning.
Yeah.
It's got...
Okay.
All right. We 1 out of 2. That's not all that bad. Oh yeah, this one's actually pretty clean. See that?
Huh.
Yes, yes. And there it is. Look at so the previous owner, the owner before that. Basically, there's a I think there's usually like a sound deadening snorkel that goes down there. Yeah. But what they've done here is just hooked up the ducting, custom setup that runs down into that.
Goes down underneath the front bumper here?
Yeah, right down here. Check that out right there. So I don't know how well that works, but you know,
it's
every little bit counts. Every little bit counts.
By the way, PT, we got to discuss this this wrench placement here.
Oh wow, yeah.
Whoa,
whoa! Look at that.
Can we look at that gap there, everybody?
Yeah.
He came dangerously close to electrocuting himself.
Wow, it would have been good for the show, right? You know, everybody loves a good old electrocution here. I know some of you were hoping for a AEM V2 cold air intake on a car like this just for nostalgia's sake. And I was too, trust me, I wanted it too. However, the GS-R, unlike most of the Type R engines, has this intake manifold that has like a whole butterfly setup in it for like more mid-range. And in doing so, it moves the throttle body down lower. And that means when your intake tube here, it actually sits lower, so you can adapt like your plain Jane Type R intake onto here. So they're actually quite rare to find. So what we are doing is we are going with a Iceman cold air intake from
Comtech?
This, but isn't there? Don't they have a new company, DP?
Yes.
CT Engineering.
CT Engineering.
CT Engineering.
Yes.
So, and this is actually quite a nice setup. You can see it. It funnels air from down in the fender well and brings it all the way up here. Got a nice filter. And the beauty with this is, let's see if I can install this here. Once we get this in, is that we're going to be able to fit this up with no issues. And this did come off of our old Type R. Right, DP? Or no, this came off of the EG.
Yes, the EG, because the Type R still has this intake on it.
That's right, it does.
We bought a brand new one.
Yeah.
This one came with the hatchback, yeah.
That's right, okay. And man, the AC lines on here are giving me a bit of trouble. But, oh yeah, there we go. Air filter goes in like that. Pops into the little hole here. Drop this in. Oh, we're gonna be making some noise here. Yes, yes, look at that. This is such a cool OEM style setup. If you look at it, like nobody knows, look at it, but it actually has real performance gains. Earlier on, I did mention we had a distributor issue. I think we have a distributor issue. Looking at the cams and stuff and how retarded they were, I don't necessarily know if it was distributor related. However, getting an OEM distributor, which this is not, is really, really tricky these days. They're old, you can't buy them new. So this is one of those things where it's like, in today's era, getting a B-Series VTEC distributor is very, very difficult. So your best option, what I found on the forums, are Red Dragon performance distributors. They're the ones that seem to be the highest quality out there from an aftermarket standpoint. Why on earth do they paint them red? Red for Red Dragon, red for performance, red for Type R? Like, oh man, look at this. Look at this. Like, I can't even, I almost don't want to run this because like this is such a disgusting eyesore. Like how does that even match? You know, I feel like we almost need to strip this, but then you got to tear the whole thing down. I'm tempted to maybe just spray bomb it.
Tape it off and bomb it.
The irony here is it doesn't even match the red valve cover. Like look how off that is.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where you can't even say, oh, it's, you know, ready to go for Type R red. It's not. So what I think I'm going to do is, before I even paint this, we're gonna go back to this cheap one, put this guy back in, drive the car around with the stock cams in place, with stock timing, and then we'll see if we can reproduce that misfire and then narrow it down to the distributors. So I think for the time being now, we're gonna go back and put this in here. DP, do you remember there is?
Yes. There's only one way it can go.
Okay.
The actual keys are offset.
Yes.
So you can literally only put it in one way.
Okay, right. Okay, well, let's try this way and let's see what happens. Well, looks like I got it right there. And look, doesn't that look so much better?
It does.
In the silver?
It does.
Like I just...
Yeah, it's horrible.
Dragonfire, if you're watching this, Go back to an OE color like this, and I guarantee you're gonna sell a lot more of these.
For an exhaust manifold, we are going with this DC Sports polished stainless 4-to-1 header. And as you can see, it uses large tubing diameter, and being equal length means that it's going to give you better mid-range performance. And GSRs are really all about that mid-range punch, more so than say the Type Rs, which are all about the top end. And full disclosure, this is actually not for a GSR, this is for a GS-LS RS, so the non-VTEC B18s. However, they don't make one for the GSR. We couldn't find any other headers for the GSR that we're gonna fit up. This does fit up, however, we might have some fitment issues on the cat side. So we're gonna find out here with you guys, but I'm confident this is gonna perform really well on this engine. Now for the fun part of trying to fit this up in the hole, it is going to be tight. Man, it's so close. Just
force it in. Force it in.
Yeah, we're trying. Man, the clutch slave is just in the wrong spot here.
Well, that's 2 bolts.
2 bolts. I think we're gonna have to pop that out. So we got the header up into position more or less, but we need to put on our gasket first. And as you'll recall, we had a broken bolt in the head here, and we could either fix that, which would be hours of work, or we could throw some sealant on here and hope that we don't have an exhaust leak with a new gasket, which is what we're gonna try because this motor is gonna come out of this car in the near future. So we thought, you know what, we can fix this when the motor's out. So let's just see if we can get it to seal up now.
Now let's see if you can get this header in here. It was tight.
It is a tight fit, and it's
still gonna be, you gotta,
there we go.
You gotta yank and
there
on.
She
goes.
Look at that.
That is a VTEC engine without a chrome header. Well, that's just blasphemy, right?
It's period correct for sure. It's got all the 90s, 2000s era vibe, which is really what DC Sports is best remembered for, and they're now being revived as a brand, so exciting to be able to use their parts again. With the header in place, we're looking at the rest of the exhaust system, and we've noticed that this heat shield is completely rotted off and broken here, so maybe we can just give it the old twister-rooney, break it off here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Now your feet are gonna be super warm, Dave.
When we're driving this car. It's true.
So hard.
It's gonna be my new daily driver PT, so I want it to be warm in the winter. And I also want to protect it from the rust, so that's our next step. This shaft linkage here is absolutely, looks like it's been underwater in the ocean, but a little FluidFilm black on there that looks a lot less offensive. And more importantly, it's gonna prevent this rust from spreading. So let's get this all treated in the tunnel here, and then we can move on to finishing up the exhaust install.
When I was a wee old teen in high school, for a Honda to have an Apexi World Sports exhaust system was like the pinnacle. Everybody was rocking the cheap stuff. If you were a huge baller, this is what you had, and now I can make those dreams come true. This is a WS3 sports muffler for the GSR sedan, and it is going to be pure bliss on here. It is actually like a perfect amount of sound. You can see large, big muffler, huge resonator back there too. So it's just gonna give us good street sound. As expected, we do have a fitment issue here with the catalytic converter. This one is actually off of the EG hatch again. We got this kicking around. It's a perfectly mint California cat, so no rust, which I'm thankful for. And I think the best option here really is just gonna be to cut the flange off of the Apexi exhaust, which I hate to do because, you know, just nostalgia stake, and just move this back rather than trying to mess with the header because we really don't want to go that way. So this should be, I think, fairly easy here. I know some of you were scratching your heads thinking, wait, what happened here? And I had to pull an audible. I didn't really want to cut this exhaust up. I felt bad. So I went into the stash and found a generic catalytic converter, and the flanges, took a flange off of the OE cat and just welded 2.5-inch piping on it and made this easy. And the last thing we need to do here is put in a fresh O2 sensor. I don't know if these really make a difference from the old ones. I've been told they do in terms of, you know, having a fresh one in here versus one that's probably 10 or 15 years old. So we're gonna do it anyways because we want this thing running in tip-top shape.
We are moments away from firing this thing up, and as you just saw, we did a oil change on it, and the old oil in there was very old and very dirty, so good thing that we filled this up with Valvoline's new Restore and Protect, which can remove up to 100% of deposits on critical engine components after 4 oil changes, which is an industry first. Wish I could pour some Restore and Protect on the rest of this engine bay and also make it look factory fresh, but maybe that's a future thing. We're also changing out the battery because the old one was, well, very old. So in goes a new Pro Series OE Plus battery. All the OE Plus stuff meets or exceeds OE specifications, as the name would imply. And in our experience so far, it's all been really high quality stuff. All right, everybody, first startup, here we go.
See what this thing does.
That doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right at all. DP, that sounds like there's no compression.
Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Crank it again.
I put spark plugs in.
Did you tighten them?
Torque them to spec.
Uh-oh. Oh. Crank it again?
Are we like way off on the timing somehow?
Well, we shouldn't be.
I mean, we
TDC,
said everything TDC, yeah.
But yeah, something sounds very,
Like
very
it's-
off.
It
So
sounds like it's making no compression.
yeah, crank it again. Yeah, literally sounds like there's no compression on it.
Well, mystery solved here, everybody, and that's because we dum-dums. Ground cam's in there before, which reduces the base circle of the cam. Now, stock cam's back in there, and the valve clearances are completely different. These are actually holding all the valves open, and as a result, we have no compression. Give it another full turn. Oops. We still have no clearance.
You'll feel the tension actually come off the valve, DP. Keep turning.
Oh,
until
there it
you
goes.
see
There's
there,
the tension's
yeah.
gone, yeah. So that was 3 full turns we had to come off, and I still don't have enough clearance. So, yeah, to say that our specs were off is an understatement. They were all being held open. So, mystery solved, not a difficult fix, just a bit of an oversight on our part, to say the least. By the way, Pete's usually the one with the stash, but this actually comes out of my old Honda racing days. This is a valve adjustment tool from Blue Point, you know, Snap-on's cheaper cousin, and it's designed specifically for B-series motors, so it's got the correct size, what would you call
10
this?
mil?
10 mil wrench on the top here, and a flathead in the middle, which fits over the nut and allows you to put the flathead on the screw and then tighten the nut with this swing handle here to lock it in place. So it's quite a handy tool for doing valve adjustments. You can do it with a wrench and a flathead. This just makes it easier.
Valve adjustment is complete, and manually cranking it over, it sounds. You guys hear that?
Sounds like
That
compression.
sounds like compression.
Yes, that's a good
So
sign.
you can, and I can feel resistance and then spin. So looks like we have solved our problem. Valve cover back on, and let's try that first start again.
Take 2, everybody. See what happens. Burn like a kitten.
How does it start on like the
first crank?
You know what it is? It was because there was fuel already in the combustion.
We primed
right?
it. It was all part of the master plan. We just wanted to show you guys, you know, a common mistake that rookies would make, not extreme experts like us. So
Huge YouTube mechanics. YouTube mechanics don't make these types of
we're
mistakes.
certified on YouTube for sure. So we're glad you enjoyed that lesson, and listen to that thing purr.
Wow, it does sound like really quiet.
It does sound very quiet.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's way better. It almost sounds better than it did before.
Oh, it sounds totally different than before. Yeah, it's running really smoothly. It's obviously going to start to smoke a bit from the header and the exhaust and all that, but man, it sounds good.
All right, I'm dying to hear what this exhaust sounds like, so give me some revs.
All right. go, guys. Our GS-R motor is running well, and that exhaust is very quiet. That is like a gentleman tone back there, everybody. So if you're grown up with a Honda, reliving your youth, but you don't want to like wake the neighbors when you go to your real job, then I think that Apex I exhaust system is a winner. And you can see our DC Sports header is already getting some color in it from a first heat cycle. So exciting times here, and that is a wrap on this episode, but we do have another one coming at you where we get underneath there and fix everything that you can't see from the outside and make it all mechanically sound before we go for a proper rip in this thing, dip into VTEC with those stock cams and really show you how it drives after the full, mechanical overhaul. So thanks again for watching, guys, and we will see you in the next one.